Welcome back to Pokemon Episode Summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 36, The Bridge Bike Gang. The episode begins with Ash and the gang walking towards their next destination, currently passing through an unknown city on the way. Ash and the gang then spot a bridge in the distance that could be used to access Sunnytown, but unfortunately, the bridge is only capable of being crossed by cars. Thankfully, the town has a second bridge, which Ash and the gang also spot. They go and try and cross it, thinking you should just be able to walk across, but the guard named Norman, who's watching over it, says that you need a bike if you want to pass through. This leads Misty to comment on how they could have made it through if Ash didn't destroy her bike, leaving Ash to get embarrassed. Man, it's been a while since she brought up the bike thing, huh? To add insult to injury, some fucks ride past them on a bike. Seeing them ride past them motivates Ash and the gang to go to a bicycle shop and buy bicycles of their own, because they had to continue on their journey somehow. They're the main characters, but unfortunately, the bikes are way too expensive, likely costing $1 million like they do in the games, so Ash and the gang are out of luck. They then decide to go to the Pokémon Center so that they can rest and brainstorm how to get across the bridge otherwise. When Nurse Joy then comes up to them and asks if they could do a favor for her, Brock immediately accepts, being the typical simp that he is for Nurse Joy, before even hearing what the favor is. When Nurse Joy reveals that the favor is that she needs someone to go deliver some medicine to a Pokemon across the bridge in another Pokemon Center, Ash and Misty then panic, though, as they realize that it'd be impossible for them to help because they don't have bikes to get across the bridge. Nurse Joy assures them that she has spare bikes of her own, though, implying that she makes a fuck ton of money then, like holy shit, if she has multiple expensive bikes. But this amazes Ash and Misty, who are like, whoa, we actually get to ride bikes now, and they agree to deliver the medicine. With Ash and Misty overly ecstatic to ride bikes. Brock was still in a trance by simping for Nurse Joy, though, so Misty had to grab him and physically pull him with her to get him out of the center. It's for that reason that Misty and Brock decide to ride on a bicycle together, while Ash just rides on his own with Pikachu, as they all cross the bridge, enjoying the awesome view. Meanwhile, Team Rocket is enjoying a view of their own when they're spying on Ash and the gang, while opting to use a raft boat across the water, and since they didn't have bikes, they couldn't cross the bridge either. They then comment on how Sunnytown was essentially like their hometown, as they were so notorious there, and this gives them the idea to use their reputation to help them capture Ash's Pikachu. Meanwhile, Ash and the gang have arrived at a rest stop stationed between the bridge and Sunnytown, and they decide to have a couple refreshments to recharge themselves, including Pikachu, before they head onwards. Right as they finish their drinks, they're ambushed by a local bike gang, who surround them, leading Ash and the gang to get frightened and try and escape. The leader of the gang, along with a girl in the gang though, explained that they meant no real harm, and were just looking for trainers to battle with, and introduce themselves. Ash, Misty, and Brock reluctantly introduce themselves as well, and Brock even tries to hit on the girl, much to Ash and Misty's dismay. And the girls, as she ferociously kicks him. Simply wanting to get on Nurse Joy's request, Ash decides to accept the gang's battle challenge, as the gang member sends out Golem, and Ash uses his Pokedex on it, and then sends out his Bulbasaur, and has it use Vine Whip. Unfortunately for Ash, though, the Golem curls up into a ball, and uses Tackle, which makes the Vine Whip useless, and sends Bulbasaur back, knocking it out. Ash then recalls Bulbasaur, and sends in Charmander instead, who uses Flamethrower and Fire Spin to attempt to burn the Golem. With Golem on fire, the gang leader decides to have it use Tackle again and have it roll towards Charmander in an attempt to use Charmander's own flames against it, but the Golem spins out of control, not being able to focus since it's fucking burning, and rolls into the gang, knocking them down, and entirely missing Charmander, causing him, Ash, and the gang to laugh at the Golem's incompetence. The gang member then recalls Golem into his Pokeball, which burns its hand because the Golem is still on fire. With the leader having lost the battle, the girl steps up, being named Tara, and she sends out her Cloyster, which Ash uses Pokedex on. Ash was initially going to battle her, but Misty insists that she should do it, since Cloyster was a water type, and she was an expert on water types. But really, I think Ash should have done it, as he has a fucking grass type. That makes more sense. But anyways, Misty goes in to send in her Starmie against it, but Psyduck comes out instead. This obviously still pisses off Misty, but she did come around to Psyduck a little bit, remember? So she decides to let him try his best against the Cloyster, as he goes up close to it, immediately making the gang laugh. Like, oh, what can this Psyduck do? But Psyduck tries to prove him wrong, going for a Tail Whip attack, but since Tail Whip isn't even a fucking damaging move, it just causes the gang to laugh even more. Psyduck then tries to physically attack the Cloyster with a scratch attack, but it prickles itself on Cloyster's body in doing so. This even makes Ash laugh, who still thinks Psyduck is a bit of a joke. This just motivates Misty to keep trying with Psyduck further, remembering that it had the ability to use psychic attacks if its headache was strong enough. So Misty instructs Psyduck to use its true power, the psychic attacks, but Psyduck can't, for some reason, much to Misty's annoyance. Brock reminds her that Psyduck could only use its psychic powers if its headache was strong enough, giving Misty the idea to instruct the Cloyster to bite Psyduck's head, which would cause pain. This just causes more laughter to ensue from the gang, who are questioning why Misty is fucking ordering around her opponent's Pokemon. Cloyster doesn't oblige to Misty, obviously, and instead of biting Psyduck's head, bites his tail, which just makes Psyduck even more fucked in the long run. A desperate Misty then tries to smack Psyduck on the head with her and Brock's bike to give it a headache, but the battle is then interrupted as sirens are heard in the distance, signifying that the cops were on their way. To make matters worse, it wasn't just the cops who had shown up, but Team Rocket as well. Fucking formidable timing. They've shown up riding on unicycles and do their motto as usual, but they're not recognized as Team Rocket, no. Their notoriousness in this town comes into play, as they're recognized as Little Jim and Chainer Jesse respectively, by the biker gang, who are in amazement that it's really them, stating how Jesse and James were known as these super notorious bikers and were their big inspirations. The reasoning for the nicknames Chainer Jesse and Little Jim were because Jessie would ride around on her bike with a chain in her hand to use as a weapon, and James would use training wheels, still looking cool while doing so, which impressed the biker gang. Ash and the gang don't see what makes these traits so special and why Team Rocket were held in such regard by these bikers, which pisses Team Rocket off as they instruct the bikers to help them out, explaining how they were now part of Team Rocket and wanted to steal Ash's Pikachu. The biker gang gladly decides to help Team Rocket, still being absolutely enamored by their presence. Wow, that's rare. People actually like Team Rocket. But before Team Rocket and the gang can actually do anything, the cops show up, including Officer Jenny, causing the biker gang to scatter away, almost leaving Jesse and James behind even, but they managed to get away as well. They probably left them behind because they thought they could handle themselves. I mean, they basically think they're gods with the skills that they have, which Ash and the gang were right, by the way. Like, how are they skillful bike riders just because Jesse had a chain and James had fucking training wheels? Like, what? With the biker gang having escaped, Officer Jenny then questions what Ash, Misty, and Brock were doing, and when they explain, Officer Jenny offers to give them a ride on her motorbike as opposed to the wimpy physical bikes. But then she gets a call for another emergency and drives off. Ash and Misty are fine with this, as they obviously like riding on bikes, but Brock was against this, as he wanted to simp for Officer Jenny, man. If the Nurse Joy wasn't going to give him anything, or that biker girl, then he had to go for Officer Jenny, and he couldn't now. Anyways, Ash and the gang then continue riding on their bicycles toward the town as a storm begins to brew, eventually becoming so bad that the wind almost sends Pikachu flying out of Ash's jacket, but he thankfully saves it. And good thing too, because Team Rocket were currently spying on Ash from inside the safety of a building with the biker gang after the storm had started. They were still most concerned about catching Pikachu, especially now that they had the biker gang's support. But then, the biker gang leader and the girl come up to them and question why they're just sitting here in the house. Like, they're supposed to be Chainer Jesse and Little Jim, right? Like, they should be out there in the storm doing a whole bunch of biking stunts and acting as an inspiration to the rest of the bike gang. That's what the leader explains to them and challenges them to go outside and ride on their unicycles in the storm. Jesse and James obviously don't want to do this, being out of practice, but they oblige as they don't want to lose the support of the gang. Meanwhile, in Sunnytown, Ash and the gang still had not yet arrived, which was worrying the Nurse Joy there, who was promised by the first Nurse Joy that the medicine would have got there already. The Nurse Joy then looks at the Pokemon that needs it, being a shelter, really desperate for that medicine. Ash and the gang were trying their best to get to the center as fast as they could, but with this storm and everything, they just kept experiencing delays. And then they experienced yet another one as a boat was crossing through the river, causing the bridge to lift up so it could pass through. Misty and Brock obviously stop, waiting for the ship to pass, but Ash insists that they don't have time to do it, as the Pokemon needed the medicine urgently, so he decides to continue riding anyway, determined to jump to the other side of the bridge. Coincidentally, Team Rocket is on the other side of the bridge, with the biker gang cheering them on, as they had agreed to do some unicycle stunts, the main one being to cross the bridge while it was currently lifted up. This meant that Ash and Team Rocket would meet each other in the air when they both jump from their respective sides. Ash realizes this, so when he jumps and is about to fall into the water, he decides to use Team Rocket as a stepping stone and bounce off their heads. This sends Team Rocket plummeting down into the water, but means Ash doesn't die and successfully crosses the bridge, doing an epic stunt in the process. This stunt impresses the biker gang, who then decide to challenge Ash to yet another battle, insisting that they had to, since Ash had just proved himself to be even more formidable of a biker than Jesse and James, so now the leader wanted to see if he was superior to Ash or not. Ash explains that he doesn't have time for a battle, though, as he needs to get some medicine to the Sunnytown Pokemon Center, which the biker gang then decides to help them with, now admiring Ash instead of Team Rocket, since Ash was so good at biking. The biker gang and Ash and his friends then take off, with the biker gang attempting to shield Ash from the rain. Eventually, everyone arrives at the Sunnytown Pokemon Center, and Ash is able to successfully deliver the medicine and heal up the shelter, much to Nurse Joy's relief, and his. Misty then phones the Nurse Joy back in the original town they were in to inform her that they've successfully delivered the medicine, as the biker gang leader comes up to Ash and happily calls him Awesome Ash, and the girl goes up to Misty and calls her Mighty Misty. Essentially, Ash and Misty have now replaced Jesse and James's reputation, now having nicknames of their own and being respected by the local biker gang. Brock doesn't really care about having the biker gang's respect, he just wants the girl's respect, and asks her to call her Honey as his nickname, leading the girl to hit him in response. I guess Brock just can't get any girls this episode, damn. Meanwhile, as for Team Rocket, they're still around. They had a bad episode this time too. They lost their reputation, and they ended up in the ocean. But at least they didn't drown or anything.